listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, soon, Twitch, Twitter, everywhere, all the lives.
What about the TikToks?
TikToks?
Yeah, we got to do TikTok.
We don't have a license there. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
TikTok Todd.
TikTok Todd. There he is. He's joining us. Oh, he's drinking that Voodoo Ranger again.
Yeah, TikTok Todd likes Voodoo Ranger. It's refreshing.
Isn't it just wonderful?
Isn't it lovely?
You know what's lovely is every Tuesday night I get to spend with you guys.
Aww.
Oh, I got to slow that slider down. That's
Slow
going
that
way
slider.
It's going way too fast.
Slow that slider.
We gotta slow that slider.
Yeah, it's going way too fast.
is.
It's like it's blazing.
We want people to get like motion sickness watching this show.
I don't want them to get sick while they're drinking their Voodoo Ranger at home.
Voodoo Ranger.
We got a packed show. We got another Halloween review for
We got
everybody.
2 reviews again.
Yep, another
We
new
got
one on
headlines.
the block. That's right. Amsterdam came out this past weekend. We're reviewing that.
Amsterdam.
Late breaking news in the headline world, which happens to be Marvel pushing everything back. Once again. It's crazy. Want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Talk about
gosh damn.
the new
That's all I can think about.
Super Mario Bros. Trailer dropped this
Yeah,
past
it
week.
did.
Yeah.
Got our first look at that in Chris Pratt's voice.
Yeah.
Were we a
Things.
fan or not?
Well,
We'll see.
We'll talk. We'll talk
We'll talk about it. We gotta get there. Let's not
But
talk about it now.
We also got a relationship segment. I don't know if you all saw the
I
topic.
did. I saw it.
It's about anger.
I'm ready right now. Let's go.
Anger leads to hate.
And
Hate leads to suffering.
No, fear. No,
Shoot,
fear leads,
I messed it up.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. That's
You got it.
Yeah.
I should have known.
suffering.
And none of it makes sense. I mean, you can replace any one with any of the others, and they all lead
I
to.
say-
I mean, they are all related emotions, but one doesn't necessarily lead specifically to. Yeah,
Well, don't talk, George
Yoda,
Lucas.
You know, Yoda said it, so
Yeah,
it's
well-
gospel.
That's right.
He said that too after. He said,
Yoda was much wiser in the original trilogy.
And then he died. Then he passed away.
Yeah.
That's it. Our Halloween review tonight after the Amsterdam review happens to be
X.
a new franchise possibly starting. We
Well, it's not possibly.
I
It's
hope
already
not.
started now.
Well, I say
Yeah, it's
possibly
true.
because sequel doesn't necessarily mean franchise.
prequel.
Sorry, prequel.
Well, there's also the sequel in the works too.
Oh, there
Oh,
is.
God.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
XX.
Maxine with 3 X's. It is. Because the main character's name was Maxine, and it's MAXXX.
God.
I'm looking forward. I'm ready for
I
Pearl.
do like that Mia Goth plays both the main character and, of course,
Well, we
the
can
old
get to
woman.
that when we review X
I'm just
as well.
saying. I'm just saying. I do like that they're keeping her as the character in Pearl.
Oh, yeah.
As the old woman you see in
Okay.
the movie.
This is
X.
the younger version. It's
Right.
smart. I agree.
So, without further ado, we got such a stacked list for our show.
We do. We should jump, I think, right into whichever.
We're doing Amsterdam
Okay,
first.
so
we're
we're doing-
making them wait for X.
Okay.
So we're doing our first, or the big movie on the block,
I don't
which also
remember what I
flopped.
gave Amsterdam now, but I'm thinking I rated it too highly.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
We'll get to it.
Well, after our review,
Might
we'll
have
discuss.
to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah, live
Yeah.
on air, breaking news.
We'll
breaking.
see.
Here is our review of Amsterdam.
We all know Hollywood likes to preach at us, and those who can virtue signal the best are those who are often awarded the best in Hollywood. Unfortunately, this often leads to endless amounts of trite, pretentious films more concerned with conveying the correct social agenda than evoking authentic emotion or imparting universal themes or morals. It turns directors with promise into egotists who double down on the pretentiousness they were awarded for, rather than dig deep to build upon what caused that initial connection with audiences. David O. Russell is such a director. Praised heavily for Silver Linings Playbook, a film that did connect with mass audiences, Russell has subsequently released American Hustle, Joy, and now his latest flick, Amsterdam, each of which progressively received less and less praise and less audience attention. Why? One only look at Amsterdam to see how far Russell has sunk into the Hollywood trap of becoming one of the elite. Advertised as a film in which a lot of the events depicted actually happened, Amsterdam tells a fictionalized version of what is now historically known as the business plot, a planned coup from allegedly some of the biggest businessmen and corporation heads of the time to overthrow FDR and put in place a dictator. Riveting subject matter for a film if the vast majority of the film actually happened. Starring Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, and John David Washington, while the film uses the business plot as the basis of its plot, the majority of the characters involved are made up, with not a lot of details known about the real event, which was almost immediately foiled, and largely believed at the time to even be a hoax. While it is certain the coup was not a hoax, the legitimacy of how much a threat to our democracy said plan was is questionable, and the film uses it more to reflect upon the climate today. Russell does so through a quirky and humorous film, where every character feels as if they have ADD, and all the dialogue also feels as if the writers also suffer from ADD. It's fast-paced and manic, and characters also talk in circles before arriving back at the plot. All of this is actually done fairly well, the humor lands nicely the majority of the film, and none of its all-star cast feel out of place, with each delivering a solid performance. The humor and quirky dialogue, however, is the talented part of Russell, but in his struggle to not lose favor with the rest of his soapbox colleagues, Russell uses the event and his film to drive home themes of love and the purpose of life that are hollow and meaningless, coming from characters we don't have much emotional connection to. With heavy-handed parallels within the film to today's climate, decrying the media and big business owners, all the while being the product of the media and big business owners. It's an odd mashup of something that could have been good, but rings hollow, lost in its own misguided understanding of humanity, life, love, and freedom. Russell came in hot to his career, but with each film feels like he's just pandering now to try to remain relevant in the eyes of Academy voters. His film commits the crime of misrepresenting history, something decried within the film itself. And while it is humorous, nothing else is entertaining enough or rich in depth enough to justify the movie as essential viewing. I give Amsterdam 2 out of 4 stars.
2 out of 4 stars. Now, Keith,
Are you going to change that?
you said that you were thinking about lowering
Yeah, I just
it.
really have a problem with how much of this movie is actually fake. And it's not
Okay.
a terrible movie.
I have a question for you, though, when it comes to your score.
That's why I originally gave it 2, because it's not a terrible movie. So I was like, as a movie, I feel like 2 stars is probably just, but it just really bugs me how much they are
I was
trying
just
to
wondering
play
if
up.
something
Yeah.
you find out later about the movie, does that change your score? Should it change your score?
I think if they're trying to display it as being more truthful than it is, because they do advertise it, and the beginning of the movie does
A lot
begin
of
with,
this actually
a lot of this
happened?
actually happened, and a lot of
But
this
then right at the
didn't
beginning,
happen.
it's like,
No.
hardly any of this happened. What does it say?
No, it says a lot
it
of this
says,
actually
yeah.
happens. Yeah, at the
I
beginning
thought
of
it
the
said like a lot of this stuff
They
almost
included it.
happened.
No,
or-
they included
or-
it in the trailer, and they included it at the
Okay.
beginning of the movie.
It's like a lot of this actually happened, and almost none of it actually happened, other than the main premise of this coup that even at the time wasn't taking very seriously. They were just like, yeah, it did happen. Some of these people did try to. They made a plan to overthrow FDR. That's true,
Right.
But it was never anywhere close to being successful or a serious threat. Is my understanding of it.
Yeah.
Kind of like when Governor Whitmer was almost kidnapped, and they realized and found out that was actually FBI agents who set that up. But we don't have to go into that.
No.
So let's talk about the movie Amsterdam. It's always the government's fault.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Yeah.
So about this movie, I would agree with 2 out of 4 in the sense that if you completely got rid of any of the, again, the nonsense that they call factual,
Right?
Because it's really not. It truly is. I think that's being accurate. 90% of it's made up.
Yeah.
The last little bit of the film in which they kind of
stuff with
in
the
a very
general...
a lot of exposition is said to kind of showcase what once it unfolds and you find out what the mystery that they've been chasing after in the whole movie. But even then, I didn't like the roundup. I didn't like the way everything wrapped and came to a conclusion. And I hated the fact that it was like, I had to knock off more stars because I'm like, well, it's not a terrible movie. At the end of the day, it was like the motivation behind it, and even the way in which Christian Bale's character tries to put a nice little bow on, it's love and kindness and the emotions that we feel when we're with those who we care about and those who we love. Like, it was just, it felt very forced and extremely, I'm like, the whole movie could have given you that little insinuation throughout by just seeing those characters interact with each other.
Yeah.
We didn't need exposition or a monologue.
It didn't
on
fit
it.
the tone of the rest of the film.
It didn't.
No.
Not at all. So I agree, 2 out of 4 stars.
The ending also has that problem that I think a lot of precocious and pretentious movies do now, where they're not. They think they're smart, but they're not sure that the average audience got it. So then they do the exposition.
They dumb it down.
They do the exposition dump at the end. Like, we were witty and creative throughout the whole movie, but now because we think you're dumber than we are, let's explain the whole movie at the end.
Which
and
is
I'm
funny
like,
because then it's like,
Scooby-Doo.
who do you think is showing up to even see your movie if that's the case?
Yeah.
It's like, why would you insult them
just
that way?
hate
Well,
that.
nobody
Yeah.
showed up to see this movie.
No, it bombed.
So
bombed. Not as bad as Bros.
And trust me, I sent you all a text. I was like, I've seen 3 or 4 articles from different sources talking about how this
Amsterdam,
movie
yeah.
bombed, and yet I didn't see one article, about justifying the bomb that Bros had last week, and it dropped another 55%.
It dropped 55%. It barely raked in, I think, around 2 million this weekend for a cumulative of a worldwide gross of about 8.9 million.
Wow.
It had a 20 million budget and 30 million marketing. Like, I don't understand. It really blows my mind.
Yeah. And they're already saying how much this one was a $100 million budget, and it only grossed 10 million.
Yeah.
So that's a huge loss. But I'm like, that equates to the same loss that Bros is having for their studio as well. So it's just funny that you're going to get all these articles about how Amsterdam is bombing terribly,
Smile
but
actually,
nothing with regard to Bros. And I think we know
came in
why.
at number 1 again, which is nice.
I mean, and it's October.
Lyle Crocodile, which is not a Halloween or October movie, so it should have done terribly.
But you always need that obligatory family film thrown in there.
No, but it came in
break
number
it
2,
up.
which makes sense. It was a family film, and those do well. But it is just funny to me that for all the excuses Bros or even someone like Amsterdam may make about why they did poorly, it's like, okay, but these other movies aren't doing poorly, so...
Yeah. Sean, what did you think about Amsterdam?
I gave it 2 also. Again, after the film is when I, went home and went down the rabbit hole on Google trying to figure out, because I'm like, wow, this is a pretty substantial,
pretty elaborate.
Yeah, this is. If this really happened, I want to know about it because I've never heard about this.
Yeah.
And I mean,
you know
again,
why.
it's like, after reading about it, I'm like, wow, they took a lot of liberty in this film.
I think they took a situation that they can make parallels to.
Well,
with
it never had
situations.
anything. It never had anything to do with Nazi Germany either.
No.
When I read the story about it, the whole fives and all this stuff and how they,
Mm-hmm.
made this Nazi kind of a semi-Nazi emblem, like that's completely fabricated.
There was no secret organization.
They were trying to instill
power.
a fascist regime, but it wasn't anything to do with Hitler or Mussolini.
Well, what I read is that it was in response to FDR taking us off the gold standard, and they were afraid that would cause inflation to skyrocket and create,
So it was like they tried to tie it in with World War II
But that's
I'm like, what?
But that's why they wanted to overthrow FDR, not because of.
But that's
what
okay.
you're
That's
saying.
weird. That's weird too because inflation's not that high now. Sorry,
Are you saying we should go back to a gold standard, Brandon?
No, I'm saying we should form a coup called the Red Moon Coup.
Yeah.
Right here
Don't
on the
say
Red Moon
that.
Podcast.
The FBI's going to be coming knocking.
Yeah.
I only am saying it because I want David O. Russell in 60 years to make a film
You
about
can't
it.
make
There we go.
jokes.
Right here on the Red Moon Podcast.
And 90% of it, 10% of it will be true.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech.
3 of us. I'm going to be Margot Robbie.
Hey,
I want to be Margot
I'm
Robbie.
just saying, freedom of speech no longer covers jokes, so don't make jokes like that.
wow.
I'm telling you.
I mean, other than that, I did find the film to be entertaining at times. There were definitely definitely some comical moments that I thought hit the nail on the head. They were very good, and the characters I enjoyed the individual characters. I felt like there were no two characters that were alike. Everybody had their own unique quirkiness and different, part to play in the story. I really enjoyed that. Especially, I actually, to me, they're only in there twice in maybe a total of 5 minutes of film.
The
but
detectives?
the freaking the CIA or detectives or whatever,
They were great.
I thought Mike Myers and Michael
Oh,
Shannon
I'm thinking
were
the
great.
other ones, the Private Eyes.
Those two guys were good too.
Yeah.
But
I was just saying the two Private Eyes and then Michael Shannon and Mike Myers.
They were the levity
actually,
throughout
I
the
did
film.
enjoy every scene they were in.
Yes,
I was like,
yeah.
okay, I
But,
would watch them banter back and forth as their own movie.
True. Yeah. There were just some issues I had with the story. I did not. I understand the jumping back in time to kind of show where they got their start, how they met. I didn't like where it was in the film. I didn't like that it was relatively close to the. I wish they would have given me bits and pieces of the past mixed in with the present instead of just going, straight to the past and then
deliberately making it a storytelling device of like, we're going to jump to this, then come
for 30
back,
or 40 minutes of the
then
film
jump,
and then come back to the present time. And it wasn't bad, but I felt like I would have responded better if they broke it up.
That even made me think, though, that was deliberately done in the editing room.
Yeah.
That they weren't intending to film it, or they obviously you film it out of order, but they weren't intending to make the movie that way. I think it was much more streamlined, and I think to add some creativity and to maybe like liven it up a little bit, they did that intentionally.
Yeah.
Because I agree, I think it probably seemed a lot flatter had they gone the other route. But like you said, then you risk the idea of confusing the audience and jumping around all over the place. And truth be told, even with the characters, and I agree, I thought a lot of them were lighthearted enough that they were quirky and it kept me interested in them and their motivations. But it seemed like a cheap knockoff of a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah.
And I felt like that so many times I was watching, and it
feel like
just
that's a
didn't
lot,
have it didn't have the same appeal as a Wes Anderson film because it's not played throughout, and obviously it just doesn't have his touch. I mean, that's what makes Wes Anderson Wes Anderson.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean the review I compared it to is like the writing was almost like they had ADD and was just very, and like that can be well done. Wes Anderson does it perfectly, but this movie didn't quite have that touch where they could go off on a tangent and then bring it back around.
Yeah.
Even Tarantino has like with his dialogues where they could go on about just the most dumb thing, but then it always comes back to the plot. And I mean it's such a realistic type of like how you talk with your friends in real life that Tarantino nails it. And I just feel like this movie was trying too hard to be like this witty and funny dialogue thing that was mostly good, but it wasn't as tight or as well done as I think Anderson or Tarantino.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I would ultimately say it truthfully, I was going to say it's worth a watch, but it's one of those movies where sadly, and this is sad because we've talked about how divisive 2 stars can be. It's not a terrible movie if you, again, ignore the falsehoods. But ultimately, I just think it's one of those that if you do skip it, you're not missing anything.
Yeah.
There's
Or
no
it's,
reason
it's
to
one of those
to
movies,
visit
too,
it.
where you won't rewatch it.
It's not,
absolutely
It's going to
not.
come and go. This isn't going to be another crack at the
Well,
Oscars for Russell, I think.
You mentioned it in the review, but truthfully, his last 2 films have been.
That's what I'm saying.
American Hustle and Joy come and gone.
He
Nobody
came
remembers
he came in
those.
hot with Silver Linings Playbook.
Yeah.
A lot of people loved that movie. It did well
good
in award
movie.
season.
It is a great
It is.
movie.
But then after that, I was like, American Hustle, Joy. It's like he steadily declined. And I said in the review, it's almost like he's trying hard to still be noticed by the Academy rather than focus on making.
Well, when
like,
you
what
pick
was,
like a dozen A-listers and even
Yes.
throw Taylor Swift in there,
Yes.
it just seems like
it's like
celebrity
every movie
pandering.
now. It's like
I
remember when
I loved her part, though.
She
I
did
love that she
fine.
got ran over by a car.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Trust
fantastic.
me, that was the
Spoiler.
best part of the movie.
But yeah, I
She
just-
did that well.
I really feel like with all his movies now, it's like he's like, look at what I did with Silver Linings. Remember how I was nominated for that? Like, I could still do that. Look, I'm doing more of that. And it's like, no, we don't need the pretentious crap.
Yeah.
We need the good stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I would say Jennifer Lawrence would have been better to replace Taylor Swift. I'd rather see her get hit by a car than Taylor Swift.
That's a toss-up, really. I don't know.
Taylor Swift is never wronged me. I'm indifferent towards her.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I can't stand
Jennifer Lawrence, I would rather her get hit by
Yeah.
the car.
I mean, I don't like Jennifer. No, I don't like either one of them equally. They're both up there.
Really?
If you had put both, maybe they could have been twins, like Siamese twins, and both gotten thrown under there. I would have been okay with that.
And maybe
Taylor Swift is so tall.
Maybe
they wouldn't be joined at
be
the
like
shoulder. It'd be Jennifer Lawrence's shoulder and Taylor Swift's side.
No. They're joined at the brain because they share only one brain.
Well, then Taylor Swift's gonna be stooped over like.
Yeah, she's
And then it
gonna
could
be.
be
She's gonna have back
turned
problems.
into. I would have been fine with that.
Like the Zelda and Pet Cemetery.
Oh, God.
Never get out of bed again. Yes. Taylor Swift.
Twisted and contorted.
Never get out of bed again.
But then they could
See,
end up.
this is the dialogue that Keith's talking about. That ADD dialogue.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is it right here. This is movie magic
Yeah.
right
This
here.
is. I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
And
I
we're
think-
doing it better than David O. Russell did.
I agree.
Easily.
I
Yeah.
agree.
They could have made it a horror film, and when they got thrown under, they get split at the head and just bleed out. That would have been great.
Split 3.
Split 3.
All right.
We good to move along?
We
now?
are.
let's do
we
that.
are.
Let's do it.
Let's move on
Moving
to our
right along.
Halloween review this
I like
week,
it. Let's do it.
which is the first of 2, and of course 3 is on the way. Maybe we'll review that one down the road.
Yeah, that one's not coming out this year.
No.
The first 2 did.
Which is crazy, but they filmed them at the same time.
They did.
Here is our review of X.
Week 3 of our Halloween franchise reviews is here, and unlike the last 2 weeks that saw us return to old franchises, this week we see the beginning of a new franchise as we review X. Released earlier in March of this year, X has already garnered a prequel, Pearl, which is currently in theaters. Garnering praise from critics and audiences, X was popular enough to justify Pearl's release, with the sequel also in the works. So what is it about X that springboarded a successful horror franchise in such a short amount of time? Written and directed by Ty West, X is built upon the bones of classic horror films with its own flair mixed in. Much like Barbarian felt inspired by the works of Wes Craven, X and its director appear to have taken a page out of horror legend Tobe Hooper's book. With X being a more effective modern-day Texas Chainsaw Massacre than Netflix's remake that also dropped earlier this year. Fused with a touch of Boogie Nights, as X revolves around a crew of amateur pornography filmmakers and stars Mia Goth as Maxine Minks, an aspiring pornographic actress. The film begins with Mia and her boyfriend and producer, Wayne, portrayed by Martin Henderson, and the other crew members traveling to an old farm on which Wayne has rented a guest house to stay and film his latest porno, The Farmer's Daughter, unbeknownst to the farm's owners, Howard and Pearl. Throughout the film, Pearl spies upon the film crew where she grows aroused and jealous of their youth and vitality. Pearl's resentment begins to grow deadly as the crew disappear one by one. X is a shocking and effective horror film, but never rises much above the exploitation-style slasher it's paying homage to. Most of the horror is divided between shock factor and actual tension and terror, with director Ty West showcasing skill in both regard. And while the tension building up to the shocking moments is well done, there's just not quite enough depth to the characters for the shock factor to be effective as anything more than sheer disturbing imagery. To be fair, the marketing around X was never disingenuous about the type of film it is. The movie is an odd blend of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Boogie Nights, but not just because of the backwoods setting and gore and the main character's affiliation with pornography. The characters are humorous, with banter and characteristics of the cast being reminiscent of Boogie Nights. Mixed with a common fear of being stranded in the backwoods while being picked off in grisly manner, X fully succeeds in being the type of horror film West wants it to be. Where it loses me is in irredeemable characters we never grow to care about, and muddied ideas about sexuality. The film doesn't explicitly promote much of its content as good, but it also never takes the time to reflect on the evil of what's happening either. The point is the shock and the horror. Don't look for much depth of theme or morals here. Popular enough to warrant a prequel and a sequel, X is strangely fun to watch at times with solid horror moments, but left me wanting more. Rarely do I feel a need for horror stories to explore their killer when said killers are presented as mysterious anomalies. But Pearl's desires and reasoning for her actions are so specific, X felt like a large chunk of its story was missing. With the film, Pearl, having secretly been filmed back-to-back with X and now released to equal acclaim, X feels like a start to something larger, but doesn't offer up quite enough on its own. Now with Pearl out to explore its titular killer, I can say X left me intrigued enough to want to see how this killer came to be. X doesn't stand quite enough on its own, with its disturbing nature being its biggest selling point, but it is an interesting start to a franchise that could elevate X as a first film as long as Pearl and X's sequel can deliver. I give X 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Yeah. You should have known what we were talking about during the review.
Edith is having problems.
I can't show it. I don't know if I can't get down there.
There's toilet paper rolls all over the floor.
I can't get the camera that
Edie
low.
decided to raid the bathroom.
Fat dog.
She knows we can't get up.
She already ate.
She's like, I'm going to eat this toilet paper.
Let's talk about X. X gonna give it to you.
I was conflicted. It's funny. I said I thought I may have rated Amsterdam too high. I actually liked this movie more than Smile, which I gave 3. So I had some issues with giving it 2.5. But ultimately, I was like, the issues I did have with X, I felt were significant enough to warrant taking that half star off. Smile, for me, my issue was just that it was a little milquetoast. Like, it felt just a little too generic, but it was really well made. This one's not generic. Like, it definitely entertained me more than Smile, but I felt like some of the, as far as its production went, it had missteps more significant than Smile, which was just and for me, I think part of that I mentioned in the movie was that part of it felt like there was some story missing. They hint at a lot of backstory for Pearl, but they don't really give you that. But then you find out they filmed Pearl at the same time, and that's backstory. So I'm like, okay,
see, I'm okay with that.
That makes some sense. I can go see Pearl, and maybe if Pearl's good too, then it'll elevate X, knowing like there's this whole story here. And then my other problem that I mentioned in the review was just some of the moral value. Like
this, I'll agree with.
Yeah, I just they don't praise this porn crew as what they're doing being good, but they never actually like say it's bad either. Like they kind of just leave it as is, and then you have this mixed kind of, I think, sentiment, I think, with Pearl, as in like, oh well, look, she came from this strict ultra religious background, kind of like Maxine, and they ran away, and they came to that, and it's like they don't really differentiate when sex is good and when sex is bad, because of course they're not going to go with the whole you should wait till marriage. That's definitely not a Hollywood standard.
But we know too that the trope of the teenagers that run off and have sex and they get killed.
Yes,
and this one, I think he plays and toes that line with that morality, in the sense of, yeah, they're making a porno film, but of course the one girl who's he's straight up, look, and Maxine is sniffing coke, and she's the one that, I don't want to say anything, I don't want to give anything away if you haven't seen it. I mean, it's been out since March. But it was also, it's low key. It's an indie flick, so it may not have popped up on people's radar.
Did well enough that they were willing to release the prequel. I mean, they already had it filmed.
But it is interesting that I agree. I don't think they do anything to condemn the moral choices in the movie. And while I don't necessarily have a problem with that because it doesn't praise them,
I don't think it necessarily
just doesn't,
had to, but I do think it's something that when you add in Pearl's like whatever's going on with her and her like killing through sex, it's kind of like, okay, your point isn't to say what these people are doing is bad, but when your killer also has this similar mindset, I need some kind of understanding of what the moral area is here. Like they leave everything too gray.
I do agree with that. Yeah. I do agree with that. There's no real, other than just not wanting to be evil and see people die for the sake of whatever sins they've committed. You have that kind of
obviously
feeling.
Just because you're a porno person, you don't deserve to just be murdered.
Well, no. But that's the thing. But you're not inherently cheering for any one person in this film to survive. It is a horror film. You know people are going to die. And you're not sitting here thinking, well, I hope that person lives. In fact, they kind of subvert your expectations and go so far as to say, no. These people are going to die regardless of what path they've chosen.
In some ways, I almost feel like, not that they specifically want you to, but they almost set it up like you should cheer on Pearl taking out each one of these people, but at the same time, she's not a good person either, so I'm just like, where are you going with this? What is the ultimate point? And I feel like the movie really didn't have one, so that kind of bugged me.
I'm the only one in the positive light. Sean, what about you in terms of what you thought? How many stars?
Yeah, I gave it 2, but it wasn't a good 2. It wasn't that you talk about 2. How there's like the 2 can be positive. No, this was the bad. This was the negative
World
2.
Wait,
the first Jurassic World.
Okay.
No.
That one was okay.
This movie disturbed me on levels that I haven't been disturbed before. Which
is part of what I liked about it.
I almost I did get sick to my stomach watching it, and some people think, okay, yeah, if it's supposed to be a horror movie, that's good. If it's unnerving, no, I literally wanted to puke through certain scenes of this movie. I thought it was absolutely. I was just like, there's no reason to do this in the film. But that being said, there were things about the film that I liked. I did like the plot of the film in the beginning. I didn't like the turn that it takes with Pearl and the old woman. I liked the idea. I thought they were going to go to this old crazy farmhouse, make a porno, and it was going to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what I was expecting. It does have some of those
vibes,
that's what the movie felt like until you get to this old lady, and then it turns into just.
See, I like her. I like the fact that her story focused on what she couldn't have anymore.
Yeah,
and this longing for her husband to fulfill this role that he couldn't.
He's gonna have a heart attack. He can't.
Well, exactly. But I'm sitting here and I'm like,
it's not worth killing people over though.
No.
I'm just like, what
not
the
for
hell
most
is going
people,
on?
but for her.
Well, but even then, and they allude to there's something deeper there, which I like. Fine if Pearl the movie goes into that in terms of that backstory.
Yeah.
Right.
This movie didn't need that. The only juxtaposition was, okay, these people are demented, living out here all alone on this farm.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
You get that sense early on.
Yes.
But you also know that she does have, in this weird way, a weird motive for why she's doing what she's doing. I like that for a horror film because I don't want all the answers to be there.
I agree. Most of the time, I don't need answers to like when they try to explain why Michael Myers is killing people. I think that's dumb. I just need. I think for Pearl, I wanted a little bit more, not necessarily why she's killing, but a little bit more of that connection that because they do really well. I love how they parallel her with Maxine and kind of hint that they both had similar backgrounds and they both have like kind of this desire to break free and pursue kind of some of that lustfulness. And you don't really know exactly how Pearl's story went, which we probably will, I assume, in her movie now. Yeah. But I did I did think that was creatively done without having to have an exposition drop at the end. Like, I did appreciate that they didn't.
I agree with that.
They didn't have to sit at the end and be like, now here's how Pearl and Maxine and their religious backgrounds.
Correlate.
One of the go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick to piggyback off the moral discussion. Obviously, it seems to be more secular in that, and I don't think they're hiding that in that regard. Yeah. Obviously, they're poking, criticism at the fact of religious zealot type figures that influence these girls or these women to do what they do.
Yeah, and
I do think that without that resolution, again. That's personal. I get it. I know some people won't be bothered by that, but that's why I knocked it off a full star. I just gave it 3 out of 4. I love the cinematography. I love the feel of the Texas Chainsaw meets Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
I love the idea of it truly being kind of, there are a lot of good editing shots where they just show the flash of a scene before it fully takes over.
Yeah.
I love even the scenes where they kind of put certain moments of the porno they're making juxtaposed against 2 other characters in a different scene.
Yeah.
Whether it's something innocent of, Maxine and Pearl sitting at the kitchen table drinking lemonade while this porno scene's going on, 50 yards away.
The farmer's daughter.
Right. And I love, of course, the humor of just the stereotypical porno from the 70s.
Yeah.
But it matched the feel, no doubt, of just that era, I feel like, in that time period. They nailed that.
One of the relationships and it kind of goes again into the morality of it, that I really liked and I thought was very authentic was the camera boy. Oh, yeah. And the fact that here's this guy that wants to be in the room watching these porn stars. He wants to be filming it, but when his girlfriend wants to do it, then he changes his tune and he's all mad because she wants to be a part of it.
That was the one moral aspect of the movie I thought they actually did right.
Yes.
I was like, yes.
I thought that was very realistic because how many of us would sit there and say, oh, yeah, we sat and watched it, but if our girlfriend or our wife wanted to do it, no. Hell no.
Oh, well, and
what
here's
I'm saying?
the thing. And I agree, but one thing I didn't like, which they don't really come back to, I guess they could say, well, look at the repercussions of the consequences.
Look what happened.
Look what happens. Yeah. And again, I mean, it's the same thing as, the rape argument that a lot of, I think, wrongly strong Christian conservative holy rollers will use them and like, well, she shouldn't have been wearing what she was wearing if she didn't want to get raped. Right. It's like, that's absolutely not right at all. But at the same time, for her to use the argument she does, very much in the new wave, new age feminism. And of course, even back then, the whole, no doubt had been through the era of the burning of the bras and feminism, taking over the country.
It made sense for that time frame,
But again, to have her exploration and her, I want to do this. What's wrong with it? Why are you telling me no? Because you're my boyfriend. And then for him to not have any good argument.
Yeah. Or backbone.
Or backbone.
Yeah.
Well, not even the backbone, because it is his girlfriend. He can't tell her no. And I think that was the breakdown of the scene, is he realizes, I can't tell her what to do. And even then one guy who is Wayne, who is
you,
fiance is
would have been great in that.
It
role.
would have been good. But Wayne, whose fiance is Maxine, and he's sitting here watching her screw, and yet at the same time, it's like, but they're, again,
he doesn't
the
care.
whole
That's
conversation.
He's making money.
I thought the whole conversation right after their day of shooting was authentic in terms of that crowd of people.
Yes.
And I even loved kind of the, busting out the guitar and we're just going to sit here and sing, freaking Bob Dylan. I thought that fit perfectly for that type of crowd.
Yeah.
But again, them not kind of juxtaposing any kind of, they had the moral ambiguity, but because they don't really shape it in terms of saying, yay, this is okay, or no.
Well,
this
Hollywood's
is bad.
afraid to
No, I think
no,
I don't think it's afraid. I think they're outright, it's blatant. I think they're willing to say that just because these people go down this road and this path and this lifestyle, they don't deserve to have what's coming to them.
Afraid may have been the wrong word, but that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Is like they don't have, that moral backbone to be like, this is wrong, because to them sex with whoever's okay.
Well, I was gonna say they downright would celebrate it.
Yeah.
And they
It's like, if you want to have
meaning
sex,
they
go have sex with
couldn't-
whoever you want
and
to.
that's what I'm saying. It was a little bit contrived that the character, the boyfriend character, could not have an argument that was worth its weight in gold, simply because that would have given too much credibility to saying, well, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And instead of, and even you kind of have that again, spoiler alert, it happens to Jenna Ortega's character, who is the girlfriend who decides, I want to do
She's
this.
Gonna do it,
When she runs out and she's screaming and she's like, no, look what you got me into. I hate you all. And she just blisteringly runs out the door, of course, not knowing what's coming, only to get shot. And immediately you're sitting here thinking, well, if she had just waited and calmed down and not let her emotions get the best of her, she would have found out that, she wouldn't have gone down that road. Yet at the same time, it's like, but she was, doing these things and she shouldn't have been here at all. But again, I think it raises some questions, but I think morally speaking, it more leans towards, no, these were just poor defenseless souls that shouldn't have been slaughtered.
Yeah, it points the finger, like you said, at the religious people or the religious zealot, but at the same time, it does not go into the fact that people in the porn industry, especially women, are completely manipulated. They're addicted to drugs most of the time. They're working and doing this job to pay for an addiction. It's absolutely insane. Like, and I think too, in the time period, because you mentioned Boogie Nights. In Boogie Nights, it's a family of these porn stars, and nobody's forced to really do it. Nobody's being held hostage, if you will. That was back in the 70s. It does show the drugs, and it shows that side of it.
No, but it shows him getting beat to a pulp at the end of the film.
I think Boogie Nights shows you perfectly just the ramifications of how bad that lifestyle can be.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's a good lifestyle. I'm just saying in the 70s it was a different industry than it is now. Now definitely. it's servitude to pay something off. I mean, it is completely different now. If you watch any of those documentaries, like After Porn Ends, things like that, you hear these women tell their stories. It's a very.
I think it's always kind of been that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like back in the 70s and late 60s, it was a little bit different. It definitely wasn't. It was more of a choice.
Like so many things in our culture, it's like one thing that starts out as seemingly sounding like freedom of choice,
or even innocent,
really is slavery to this
sin just gets worse and worse.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, but at the end of the day, you don't feel any sense of fulfillment, and the slave aspect comes in after years and years of attaining what it is you sought after, but realizing you're no much more. You're still empty inside. It didn't fulfill anything, and that's kind of where I don't know if they're going to explore that in the sequel, not the prequel. Pearl's the prequel about Pearl's character.
Yeah,
but if we see a sequel with Maxine, who knows? We'll see. Yeah. But I don't know. I thought overall stuff. I mean, I still gave it 3 stars. I thought it was a great horror film. and I thought it was shot really well, and it was definitely something new to a genre that I think we've impressively been seeing a lot of.
I've been
of
very
revitalization
happy this year with most of the horror. Like, there's not all of them, but most of the horror films, I think this year,
surprisingly,
I've been actually happy.
Barbarian still, that's the best one I've seen.
That's the best one I've seen
Agreed.
so far.
HBO Max. It's coming October 25th. Just in
I
time
will
for
be-
Halloween.
I will be watching
I'll
that.
watch it.
Same.
Again, yeah.
We even had one of our friends who went and saw it this
Yeah,
past
she did.
week, and she hated it.
I kind of saw that coming, but I wasn't. Yeah.
Melissa Burris.
Oh, really?
She couldn't stand it.
Wow.
She texted us. She was like,
I think
y'all did not think that was a good
No,
movie.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that won't like it, and a lot of people that will. I think it'll be a little bit more divisive just because of the nature of.
Oh,
what
yeah,
it
no
is,
doubt.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But definitely far better than X, I think.
I thought it was
actually.
better than Smiles. I Smile, I think, is the weakest one I've seen so far.
Agreed.
Well, Hellraiser's the worst one I've seen so far,
yeah.
but we didn't review that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah. No,
Let's
we won't.
move into.
We don't need to.
won't. Let's move into our headlines for this evening. That was a new one.
Headlines.
We are going to talk about Super Mario Brothers trailer.
But not yet. Not
Finally,
yet.
those come into play. I've been waiting.
Yeah.
They actually make sense.
Well, one
for
day,
once.
because we're not talking about that first.
We're not. We're talking about the big news that broke about maybe 4 or 5 hours ago. Marvel pushed everything back.
I say it kind of started a little bit before that with they announced they were postponing Blade until they found a director, which makes sense. But then they announced a little bit after even that no, they were postponing. I think it's 6 projects: Blade, Deadpool 3,
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four.
What were the other ones?
Avengers, and they said 2 untitled ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So they're to
Avengers
come.
King Dynasty.
Kang
So,
Dynasty?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So
Well, and our first initial thoughts when we saw this news was more so, okay, this is a good pivot.
I'm honestly,
this is not bad.
I'm actually okay. I know people panic, but I'm like, you know what? They need to slow down
Yeah.
and figure out what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already talked about burnout so much when it comes to, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's,
I mean,
with
it's
Marvel.
every franchise
Yes,
now. Like, we don't need
But
20
here's the
different
thing,
projects
though.
all in the same year.
Do you really think them slowing down and taking some more time is going to make a difference?
I don't think they've gotten so far off thread yet.
DC definitely has. I
Oh,
don't know
DC
about
has.
Marvel, but like,
But they're already
DC
rumored-
can stop, start
it's
over, do whatever,
rumored-
and I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's rumored Henry Cavill is going to appear in
in
Black Adam.
yeah.
So they're bringing him back. And they were doing reshoots for The Flash
With
possibly Ben Affleck
but
is.
they already confirmed he was supposed to be in
He's
the Flash.
supposed to be in
yeah.
The Flash. So then there's also, I think it was something else where it was Ben Affleck and
Henry Cavill were seen on
Henry
set
Cavill were
together.
seen in the same city
City. Yeah.
during some reshoots of something. So now it's like, okay, well then are you going forward
yeah.
With the
with these
Snyderverse?
characters?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
going on?
They don't know. It's
Yeah,
such
and
a
I didn't want to
cluster.
make this a DC
No,
combo.
no,
but
sure, I
still,
didn't know
I
that
think
though. Yeah.
If the only thing that
Wow.
concerns me about Marvel, I don't think like as far as quality of film, they've gone so off the rails that they can't fix themselves. But what I do worry about is if they can get away from the crazy wokeness.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I think they could.
Everything's gonna be all right.
They could take they could take a step back and maybe make the films better and more quality.
Love to say
but
that.
are they still going to continue to shoehorn everything? And
Yeah.
yes, they probably will continue doing that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, no doubt.
Unfortunately.
I think
It's
they're
like we're going to take some time to
unabashedly-
fit
Yeah.
more woke stuff into the
Well,
movie.
you have to look at. I mean, do we have hard evidence as to why the director of Blade bowed out? Why he left?
They've talked to not because of woke reasons.
No. But I'm just saying. It's
They
like,
talked about that they didn't like the script. Like he was adamant about his script, and apparently Mahershala Ali and Kevin Feige didn't like it, and they're pretty set on keeping Mahershala Ali. So they were just like, well, he's not happy. From what I've read, and this is all conjecture, all rumor, nothing fact, he was apparently unhappy that it didn't have as many action scenes in it. He wanted more action scenes, and I'm like,
I think there was supposedly like one.
yeah.
It's Blade.
I know.
Like-
That's why people were like, "What?" I think it was 2.
They said there was like 1 or 2 action
Two
scenes,
action
and that was it
scenes.
in the whole movie. And Mahershala Ali, which is funny because thinking of Mahershala Ali, I would think that he would want it to be more because he's an Oscar winner. I thought maybe his problem would be
story-driven and
I
more-
thought maybe
yeah.
his problem would be that it wasn't story driven enough. But actually, it seems that he was like, no, where's the fights?
Well, he
Like,
wants to be a Marvel
yeah,
hero.
he wants to be a Marvel hero.
Yeah.
And I think there should be a balance. Obviously, like don't scrap your story just for action.
But truth be
still-
told, that's been part, just like with this one actress, and I'm forgetting her name, in She-Hulk. Not the main actress.
the one that plays
Tamil, is it?
yeah, Jamil,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah,
But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, she
She's a joke.
tweeted about how she wanted it, a dream come true to be in the Marvel universe, and she's really upset that people don't like it. But you know what? Hey, she got her money, and
Yeah.
and I'm
she
just
said she
sitting-
got to live
she
her
got-
dream.
Yeah,
but,
she got to live
it
her dream.
boils down to the same thing. It's like, well, I got rich, so I don't care.
I got paid, and I just this
Marvel
is
money.
the epitome of what Marvel has become. Harry Styles is in the cast
Well,
now.
now it's the popular thing to do.
Exactly. It's everybody who's jumping on the bandwagon after it's become popular, and it is becoming the roller coaster ride right after
It
Martin
is.
Scorsese
They're
scorned
actually
it for being.
We kind of defended Marvel at first, but now they are proving Martin Scorsese right. And it's like, no, I can't defend you now because
It's
you're
just a
doing
big
the very
carnival
thing.
ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but I don't. It's not that I don't have much hope for the Marvel franchise because everything's being pushed back. They have to do a massive haul of just the scope of where they're headed.
Yeah.
Because this phase has been a disaster.
Yeah, I agree.
Nothing has led to even the fact that you have to come out and explain we're headed to King the Conqueror, even though you've had maybe some breadcrumb trails that have hinted at it, but there's been nothing official that has made us hyped to see what this big baddie is throughout this whole saga.
Yeah.
And so they already have a problem there, first and foremost.
Well, even
but now
still,
you're
yeah.
spread so thin with regards to these shows that are also being extremely divisive, crapping on the fans. You're not being appreciative
Well,
of
they're
their
pulling
opinion.
back on that too. They've actually said they're considering turning some because they already announced that Armor Wars is not going to be a Disney Plus series. They're going to make that
Make
into
it a movie, yeah.
Yeah.
They said they're actually considering doing like less of that. Of the long-running series now, and making some of them movies and some of them specials, like the Werewolf by Night just dropped was.
Okay.
So they're considering no longer doing like they still will have some shows, but they're not going to pump out as many like 8-episode or more series. And I'm like, maybe that is a good idea. Maybe
No doubt.
It's like maybe you're beginning to realize that quantity isn't the way to
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
No, I mean, I Black Widow is a good example of that for me. Like, that's not a. To me, that's a movie that's perfectly fine being dished out on Disney Plus. I didn't need to go see that in theaters. It wasn't good enough to merit all of that. It was okay, but it's kind of like that could have easily. They could have tried to make that into a series,
And it would have been too
and it would have
drawn
been
out.
too. Yeah, exactly.
too drawn
Make
out.
it into a movie. I feel the same way with Armor Wars. It's like, yeah, if especially if it's going to be Don Cheadle.
Yeah, I
if
think
he's going to be
there's no
War
reason.
Machine and they're going to do that and give him a movie, that I'm fine with that. I'd rather have the movie than 10 episodes.
I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier was too drawn
That
out.
could have been a
could have
movie.
been a movie and
Exactly.
been just fine. Yeah.
Yes.
Which he's getting a movie now. It's like, well, why didn't you do that to begin with?
Yeah,
I
don't
haven't
know.
seen it, but I've kind of heard the same thing with Hawkeye.
I like Hawkeye. But Hawkeye could have been short. Like it could have been a
Yeah.
movie and been more.
And it's weird because even they've even spoken about how the series themselves were supposed to be like these short bursts of we're just going to tell this episodic tale. It's maybe 6-7 episodes. We're in, we're out.
Yeah.
And it just is kind of a bridging of the gap. But then there's still this issue of, okay, but is the story still necessary to tell? Because then you get something like Scarlet Witch and WandaVision, and how almost everything in that entire series became obsolete or just
Yeah, well, it was
not,
yeah.
or not. I wouldn't say it was
it
obsolete.
built up to
It
a lot
wasn't
that
needed.
seems significant, but then when you get to Doctor Strange, they just crapped over everything they built up to.
Right.
With
But I do
WandaVision.
feel like for you to understand Doctor Strange 2,
You have to
you
see
have
it.
to see WandaVision.
You're right.
And I don't like that. If you're going to give me a show that I can enjoy in between some of these films, don't make it so grossly connected
Well,
that I
think about
have
it
to
this
watch
way.
the show to get the movie.
It's like if you're watching a series on television, whether it's The Sopranos, Game of Thrones, Lost.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't start out in the 4th or 5th season.
Yeah.
But if the writers in the 4th or 5th season said, well, we've got to appeal to new fans, so we're going to just completely crap or forget all that we've already created in the past 4 seasons. We're going to start fresh in this season and start over to get them on board, to try to get them to come on and still kind of include some little nods for our old fan base. No, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but
See
we
it
knew
through.
this was
Yeah.
coming. We knew it was coming with the Marvel fan base and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that you were going to eventually reach the point with all these films, and especially once they started announcing
burnout's
series.
eventually going to happen, yeah.
But not just burnout. You're going to have to take a hard and fast approach of, do we just count our blessings of the people who are tuning in and coming along and saying, we're going full force into the lore and we're going to go down this road and we're not worried about new people joining because it's just too darn complicated?
Well, yeah, at this point you have so many, not everybody is going to be able to keep getting caught up or keep joining. So, yeah, you either have to make the decision of, look, you're either in it now and we're continuing on, or everything has to be standalone so that people understand it.
And I think, unfortunately, they've been waiting in this wishy-washiness, especially. It's easily tellable.
That's what I think is most aggravating is, it's like they want to act like everything's connected, but then they don't actually connect the plot threads.
And then they have series that are completely just out of sorts with everything else they built. I mean, we even praised, like, when Black Widow did come out, it being the first Marvel movie coming back to the theaters after, our long pause of COVID. But it was like, it's an espionage thriller. Like, we've always touched base on having these different genres and it spicing up things. But now they've taken it to the nth degree of, now we got to have She-Hulk, who's just nothing but a witty comedy of wokeness.
It doesn't play into anything larger.
And so it fails miserably on that front. And it just doesn't add anything to the formula. It really makes it not worth your while. And so if there's no payoff, then can we really look forward to anything else Marvel's coming out with?
Yeah. I wish, after the Infinity Saga, I wish they would have just, that's the Avengers story. By that time, they already had X-Men. All of that was in the bag. They had that. Let's just go ahead and start a whole new set of characters, a whole new story, and do this X-Men saga, or put X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Ghost Rider, and all these different things. Like, get them in there. Forget the Avengers. They're done. Their big story arc is over. Let's let it end. Let's let it die. Tony Stark's dead. He started it. He finished it. Let's stop. And then just move on with all these new characters. But this new, what are we on, Phase 4 or 5 now?
Phase 4. Well, Phase 4 ends with Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Yeah.
So, and supposedly by the end of Black Panther, you're supposed to know the big story arc.
I don't think so. I think
that was what I heard.
I was, because Ant-Man's when they're finally
you're right.
Yeah.
Ant-Man.
But that's the beginning of Phase 5.
Yeah. Ant-Man, you're supposed to know the plan by that
which
movie.
is crazy, because
Yeah.
that literally means
Quantumania.
we've been through an entire phase where the main bad guy has only been mentioned in terms of breadcrumbs, not actually talked about.
Loki, but that's the thing.
Again, you gotta watch Loki.
Loki was was it the second or third? Third original series, because Falcon came out first.
Third,
yeah. So the third original series they did, which was fine. You had WandaVision that seemed like it was building to something. Falcon and the Winter Soldier seemed standalone and kind of a buzz. But then Loki brought it back up, and it's like, oh, there is a plan. We kind of see this multiverse and Kang thing happening through WandaVision. Now Loki, Spider-Man was coming to deal with the multiverse. So I was like, okay, there seemed like a solid plan. After Loki, they dropped everything. You don't hear about Kang anymore. Yes, the multiverse is still mentioned, but it's used as a MacGuffin in both Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. There's really no threat there about why the multiverse matters.
And I have to agree with Sean. It's like we had a perfect setup after Endgame.
Yeah.
And they even started somewhat doing it with the first few series on Disney Plus, like Hawkeye. It's a handing off. It's a handing of the torch. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're handing it off to a new brigade of superheroes.
Because the other actors are going to retire. And
of course. And we knew that was going to be the case. That was always going to... It was a ticking time bomb. But again, when you had such a definitive end with the one who started it all, Tony Stark and Iron Man, it felt okay to then leave that behind.
Yeah.
And Endgame was such a great ending to that arc. Even to make them have like little cameos, it's like, no, we need a new set of characters that we can have the faith in of saying, this is who's going to carry the mantle forward and who we can instill our faith in terms of this series.
Yeah.
But they haven't done that. And they've squandered this entire phase in terms of setting that up.
I don't even want the new Avengers, like the Avengers that are left and the new ones that they're adding. I don't want the Avengers at all. Their story, to me, is done. Let's move on to other Marvel properties.
I think you still have to include them unless you're just going to create a new universe entirely. Because if you only focus on the X-Men, it's like, well, why aren't the remaining Avengers trying to? We still have that problem now. Why aren't these other superheroes ever
showing up,
trying to help? It's
I get it.
You have to keep. Yeah. Continuing a little bit, but I think they are waiting too long to introduce characters people care about. They're trying to go all in on these B and C level characters.
When they have things like at the beginning of Doctor Strange, you have Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
there.
Thor, yeah.
And no. At the beginning, was it Thor?
No, they were at the beginning of Thor.
They're not in
Love and Thunder.
I'm
yeah.
sorry. At the beginning of Thor,
Yeah.
and they turn him away.
Yeah.
Only to then say we need help from other people.
Well, I'm
like,
just talking
you
about
just had the Guardians.
As far
there.
as Sean is talking about, I do agree. Like you have X-Men now, you have Fantastic Four. It's like they're waiting until
So
the very
many
last.
properties.
Like Phase 6 is when we finally get Fantastic Four. We still haven't heard about anything about the X-Men, and it's like I know like you still have these characters and you're trying to tie things together. But you can't force characters who were never that popular in the comics to all of a sudden be popular in movies either. That's why Eternals failed. It's like quit giving people crap they don't care that much about just because Guardians of the Galaxies happen to work. Like not every other odd character is going to work that way. It's like bring in the characters people care about and then add these characters as secondary characters that people will grow to love because they are alongside of the ones that we do care about.
I really think with Marvel, if they get when they do X-Men, if they get that wrong,
Oh, it's over.
it's over. Because I
especially
really
after
do. I think
Fox,
the
yeah.
Avengers is huge. Avengers are huge with Marvel fans. But I'm telling you right now, the X-Men, that is the bread and butter of Marvel. And I really feel like if they screw that up, it is going to be curtains.
I don't
for
know
Marvel.
if it'll kill the MCU entirely because
No,
I mean, look at how Fox,
but I'm saying you're going to lose millions of fans if you get the X-Men wrong.
It could be. I mean, look, it could be Rings of Power bad.
Oh yeah.
It really could be. I mean, you just destroyed an entire franchise.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna be talking about that show.
But yeah,
and if you get the X-Men wrong, I hate to say it, when you own the entire property, I mean that no doubt is.
I have
the
no
biggest
faith that they'll get the X-Men right because they're going to want to
Well,
use it
that's the problem.
for
Well,
yeah.
Well, they just, and I think that's the biggest writing on the wall. I think the biggest writing on the wall at this point is they're so contaminated with amateur behavior, with the way in which they. Again, it's kind of like giving, the person who was in charge all of this freedom because they got it so right when they were trying to prove themselves, but now they just feel like they're just gangbusters, like, oh, anything we do out there, people are going to follow and love. Yeah, you're going to have a certain dedicated fan base, but once you start crapping on those who have been following it or who have been giving you chance after chance to course correct, and then you don't, they finally get fed up enough to just say, I'm turning it off. I'm tuning out. And I'm on that boat. I'm going to go see, like I said, I've mentioned on the show, I'll see the tentpole releases. I'll go see Wakanda Forever. I'll go see the next, whatever the next one is after, this pushback.
Ant-Man is
It'd be Ant-Man.
after Wakanda Forever, yeah.
I'm not looking forward to it as I used to when each of these releases came out.
When you look
that's that to me is the lost luster that I feel like Marvel can't get back. And you hope it does with this pushing of everything back, but you just don't know.
I mean, they've already turned their flagship, like the flagship characters that are left. Yeah, Captain America and Iron Man are gone, but Hulk's been turned into a joke. Thor's been turned into the joke. Spider-Man, they haven't turned into a joke, but he's also not been as compelling without Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to help bring it along.
Yeah, true.
So it's like the iconic characters that everybody knows outside of the X-Men, you've already kind of squandered. So now you have Fantastic Four and X-Men who are your next biggest iconic groups, and it's scary. It's like, well, Fox already screwed that up. Are you actually going to do better? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. Time will tell. I do think, as with anything, time can always be. More time is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
But you still have to prove.
But you have to actually, use it wisely.
Exactly. And you can still squander it. I love it. I love it. Before we move on to that, I just want a quick word. Because we followed the story ever since it broke last year. Oh, it's been almost a year ago.
There's a couple stories we've kept up with,
Baldwin settled with Helena Hutchins' widower, her husband, and he settled for it's an undisclosed amount, but he is going to become an executive producer on Rust. It will continue filming in January of 2023. Okay. And they will, I guess, as they've said, release the film in her honor to bring her last vision to light. This closes the civil case in that regard. There's still other pending litigation out there.
The state's still investigating,
The state is still investigating in terms of the wrongful death suit that could come against Alec Baldwin. We don't know. I still believe in my heart of hearts, regardless of if he's settled with her husband.
Yeah.
I still feel that he needs to be held accountable for the life that he took and the negligence he had on set.
I very much fear that he's just going to walk away with no more than a slap on the wrist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that, though. I do think he needs to be held accountable. I think he needs to realize that, yes, you are responsible for this, no matter what you say, and you deserve to see jail time. I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping the state doesn't drop it. I hope they move forward and they pursue convicting him, but we'll see.
They could easily use this as an instance of saying, nope, we've settled with the husband. What else do you want?
Yeah.
Right,
What
yeah.
else more do you
Yeah.
need?
And I mean, not only is I'm sure it's an ungodly amount of money, but on top of that, as an executive producer of the film, he's going to reap the benefits of the film
That's
when it
the
does
idea.
release too.
I think
so.
that was
It's
the
kind of
idea.
like, we'll give you a part of a stake in the film too.
Right.
So it's one of those things, and people are going to go see it because of
they're
the
gonna promote
attention
it
that's been
because of
drawn
it.
to
They're
it.
going to promote it because we need to see this and sponsor it because of
Well,
Helena
they'll do it
Hutchins'
as like, this is in honor of
last
her,
film.
so you have to go see
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you go see it, her family gets some of the benefits.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like,
They'll
guilt trip you into
they'll
seeing
get you
it.
into seeing
They
it.
really
I mean, I ain't
Exactly.
gonna lie. Ever since the
But guess who else gets
controversy
money?
broke, I kind of
Guess
wanted
who
to
else
see it
gets money from
regardless.
it? One of the other producers,
Baldwin.
Alec
That's
Baldwin.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Absolutely.
Let's
Or
move
no,
on.
I could see him easily coming out and saying any proceeds I receive from this film will directly go to her family. I could see him easily doing
Yeah, he'll
that.
say
Or
it.
to a charity that prevents gun violence, something like that.
That promotes.
Not promotes. I said prevents.
Prevents people like me from handling a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
It's
exactly.
like, I'm going to give money to a group that prevents guns from automatically shooting themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't pull the trigger.
Go
Alrighty.
ahead.
Now let's talk about the big one on the block, which happens to be the new Mario movie
Not
trailer.
me. Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
I'm looking forward to it.
I like the trailer.
I like the trailer.
I'm not convinced by Chris Pratt's voice.
Here's the
I
thing.
think that's been the most
Yes.
divisive part of the
I'm
Yeah.
not against him not doing the high-pitched
The
squeaky voice.
Italian
Like, I know a
voice.
lot of people are upset the
Yeah.
original voice actor's not doing it. An hour and a half of him doing that voice would have gotten old fast. I'm not gonna, like, I've played Mario 64.
I can agree with that.
I
Yeah.
don't think I want to hear the.
I would agree. I don't think we've heard anything more than.
Have you seen the?
It's a Mario.
Have you
It's
seen
like-
the
No, he
video
has in a
that
lot
they
of his-
did with the original voice?
Oh, it's awful. I hate it.
Oh really?
Oh, you didn't like it?
I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
They fill it in.
They
with
used
that.
AI to reproduce Mario's
Yeah.
voice in the
Really?
trailer, and I thought for a trailer it did sound good, but I am agreeing with Keith that
I watched
after an
that
hour
trailer
and 40
and I
minutes
thought if
of
an hour of
yeah,
him doing that, I think
Be
would get
annoying
I
old
think
as
that would be
hell.
annoying. Yeah.
And I think that's why. Here's the two arguments I've heard. They went with Chris Pratt because he's a well-known name.
Oh, yeah,
So he's going to draw
absolutely. Yeah,
audiences.
it wasn't
So
just-
no doubt
yeah.
that's why they did it, and I can agree
Well,
with
he's
that.
a good voice actor too.
But I think that's the other problem. While I understand and I agree that I wouldn't be on the side of going with the original Mario's, because he literally does like one or two
Yeah.
lines at
Yeah.
a time. He doesn't do
Something
right.
in that
I
vein.
don't think
Yeah.
he could
Yeah.
do the emotion that maybe we're going to see from
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
But I also am sitting here thinking, but you do have people who do voice acting for a living.
Yes.
And they could do such a better job and still do a faithful adaptation of an emotional Mario.
I wanted something in the
in a
vein
live-
of
in a-
Mario,
in a
not
film.
maybe not that high pitched, but still something that sounds like it's hard to tell. There's very little of him actually speaking in the
Yeah,
trailer.
it's only a line.
Yeah.
It did seem like some people said they thought he had a little bit of a New York accent, and I was like, yeah, I thought he was trying some type of accent because I mean there is a huge
It
Italian
definitely sounds
community
higher
in New York.
pitched too,
Yeah.
but
So,
not high.
So
that
I'm like,
high-pitched.
I want to see more of him actually speaking before I fully judge it.
Yeah.
Because like you also hear Jack Black's Bowser and
Sounded great.
and
I
you-
did, yeah.
Yes, and you
I
hear
agree.
Keegan Michael Key's Toad, and I was like, both of them actually did really good. They're not exactly like the video games, but it still sounds like Bowser. It still sounds like Toad. So it's definitely a creative choice, I think, for Chris Pratt to not sound fully like Mario. But to what extent they go with it is what I'm worried about.
But,
Yeah.
but there's even been talk like he talked about how he's tried to come up with this voice and he worked on it.
yes, he did
And I'm
say he
sitting
put
here
a
and I'm
lot
like,
of work into this voice.
dude,
and
that
I'm
just
like,
sounds like you, but
You,
higher
yeah,
pitched.
yeah. Right,
That's
yeah.
all.
We'll
It's
see.
No,
Like,
I
I want to
agree.
hear more dialogue before I fully judge him. But yeah, I'm not sold on it yet.
It's like I mean, when you've heard him do Onward and you've heard him do Lego Movie 1 and 2,
It's the
it's
same.
kind of like, okay, so Mario is the yellow guy from Lego Man
Yeah.
and he's the brother from Onward.
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
the same voice. And Chris Pratt's my man, but
No,
at the same
you're
time,
right.
it's like
but you know what you're
do
getting
something
with them.
different. Yeah, exactly.
I kind of wish, like, I understand, like, because it kind of started with the Disney Renaissance having, like, famous actors jump in, like, with Robin Williams and Aladdin, but it was always one character. It wasn't, like, the whole cast. And with Robin Williams, he was a phenomenal at doing voice acting anyway, so that made sense. And then you had like Eddie Murphy as Mushu and James Earl Jones as Mufasa. And again, James Earl Jones has a voice that fits for certain characters.
Yeah.
But it's like now a lot of like big budget animated movies do go with a lot of famous actors rather than voice actors who are kind of stuck with smaller movies and television
They go with the
series.
trendy actors.
And
The
I'm like-
ones who are,
And I'm not entirely against having big name actors, but at the same time, I wish they would employ more of the voice actors who can drive that emotion home.
Well, and I think they went with the big names in the past, but it was like you also knew, and I think there was this respect for what you were doing, that they understood because it was animation, they had to be more animated.
Yes.
In the way they I mean, now granted, you have people like Robin Williams where it's just
They're just saying it's
naturally
natural.
that.
Robin Williams
But
made sense.
Eddie Murphy, I mean, even, and again, a lot of these were comic backgrounds too. But even James
because
Earl
people
Jones.
who were already more animated. Eddie
But
Murphy,
again, with James Earl Jones, him as Mufasa did not sound like him as Darth Vader.
It's still James
So
Earl
it
Jones,
was
but
still
it is
him,
unique.
but it was unique. Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know. I feel like there was a little bit more of a nuance back
That's what I'm
then.
saying. Like when they did the stunt casting, I guess you would say, it actually fit the characters they were hiring them for. Now it's just a free for all. Well, we'll get these big name actors.
And I didn't even. We waited so long. I just wanted to bring up Angela Lansbury dying.
Yeah.
But she voiced Mrs. Potts.
Mrs. Potts,
And
Beauty
she did
the
a
Beast, and she did a
spectacular
phenomenal
job.
But again,
Daggone, an hour and 5 minutes into the show, and I just mentioned Angela
you're picking
Lansbury
people for
dying.
roles that you know they're going to be perfect for, rather than creating roles and saying, let's hire Justin Timberlake for Trolls, let's hire Chris Pratt for.
Right.
I mean, it's
You can clearly tell nowadays when they're going for the star power.
Yeah.
And specifically picking it for that. And I hate to say, again, not enough has been heard yet. But Chris Pratt is not seeming like the best choice for Mario yet. Jack Black as Bowser was fantastic. All the other ones.
Yeah.
The plot still seems very. it was a teaser. It was a teaser.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to see Bowser running around stealing stars for an hour either.
Yeah.
so we'll see.
And of
fits
course
the game, but I like that.
And I was actually glad we didn't hear Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach yet.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
That one,
I think she could do a
I think
great
she's-
job.
The only other one I fear, like the rest of the cast, I think will be like even what's his name from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, who's doing Luigi. I see that. Is it Charlie Day?
I think
Is that
so.
right?
I think you're right.
Yeah, like I could perfectly see him pull off Luigi. Other than Chris Pratt as Mario, the only one I'm worried about is Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
Oh gosh.
yeah.
It fits.
Seth Rogen
it
can-
fits.
it
A big
does
hairy
fit.
monkey. I'm just saying.
But here's the
Weed
thing.
all the time.
Seth Rogen always sounds like Seth Rogen.
Yeah, he
there's,
does.
There's no way
Yeah,
he
there's
pulls
nothing.
off something.
Yeah.
So
It's like
I
you watch
just- I don't
Sausage
know.
Party, it's Seth Rogen.
I'm still
like it's easy.
So
I
just,
tried to defend it at the time, but the worst offense is still Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs.
Oh, God.
He acted
Awful.
fine, but terrible. I'm coming. You didn't
Yeah.
even portray Woz. I'm
Yeah.
like, just an awful choice for why they even picked him. I
So
don't know.
we'll see. I mean, I do think it looks interesting. I think it nails the humor from the games. Like
Yeah.
like
Yes.
the penguins throwing the snow. Like I thought it was like
Well, even the animation is done by Illumination and not Pixar,
We
which
were
I'm
worried
happy
about
about.
that. Yeah. But I'm-
Illumination, I'm telling you, like freaking
don't
Sing
like their
and
movies. Yeah, I
I
don't
do,
like
I
Sing
do
or-
though.
yeah.
Sing and
I don't.
the
Secret-
first
Secret
Life of Pets was okay, and
The first one was.
but the Minions movies and Despicable Me, I love those
Despicable
movies.
Me, but I've only seen the first two.
Yeah.
I'll say this: for an animation studio, I was glad they didn't just go with the. I guarantee you, it could have been a box office. It's already going to be a slam dunk.
Yeah.
But they could have, and it probably would have cost them more, honestly, to partner with Pixar.
Oh, yeah.
But no doubt Disney would have taken that in a heartbeat.
Or DreamWorks.
Nintendo
But
and Pixar.
yes.
Like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
gosh.
I'm actually
yes.
That
what
would've
I'm
been
hopeful
huge.
for, because even though like Illumination seems like it's like you didn't go with DreamWorks or Pixar,
They
the
gotta
big
prove
two,
themselves.
but it's like I'm glad they went with Illumination because I'm hoping it turns out kind of like with Sky Blue Animation, who did Rio.
Yes.
They did the
Yeah.
Peanuts movie, and that turned out phenomenal. It
Yep.
was like the only good
Who-
movie
did
I think they
DreamWorks
made.
do How to Train Your Dragon?
They
Yes.
did, yeah.
Okay, and
DreamWorks has
That's their big. That's
How
their
to Train
big
Your
one, yeah.
Dragon and Kung Fu Panda. I think
Yeah.
DreamWorks nailed it with those franchises. And I'm hoping they have another one at some point.
But that's the
I
thing.
don't know if Nintendo would put their name on it if it wasn't going to be.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I agree.
I think they're
That's
gonna
the
be-
only thing
yeah.
that's
They're
giving
very
me the most
protective
hope.
of,
Yes.
of their
Because Nintendo is
property.
very, very particular about what they put their
Yeah.
name on, and they have no doubt been expanding as in recent years, whether it be iPhone apps or now major motion pictures.
Yeah.
They are
And
no
again,
doubt getting back into kind of that feverishness they had
are
in the early
expanding,
90s.
but it's not fast either.
Right.
Like they are very
They're
calculated.
calculated.
Yeah, it's smart.
Very, very calculated. And I think that bodes well,
Yeah.
and that gives me more hope for this movie moving forward. Plus, again, it was a teaser.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's still a full trailer.
We'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm hopeful
We didn't
for
hear
it.
Luigi. We didn't hear Princess Peach. You see Luigi in the teaser, just briefly.
Did we get a Goomba? There's no Goomba, did we?
There's a bunch. We didn't see Goombas. We did see a bunch of Koopas. Though.
Yeah,
Yeah, Koopas were in
Yeah.
there. Yeah. That was.
I'm sure they'll have
it's going to be a
Goombas.
huge, massive hit. But it comes out
amongst-
March of
yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm sure their Goombas will not be as good as the live action Goombas, though. Swaying on that elevator.
all right,
Bob,
guys.
that movie is
I love
that's
that.
a cult
It's a
classic
terrible movie, but I love
is.
it.
There was somebody who I think they posted it was because he only has one line.
Yeah.
They showed Mario's Chris Pratt's Mario in the animated version saying his
With-
line and
with
then
Bob
cutting
Hoskins?
doing the movie
Yeah.
the live action movie with
Yeah.
it. He's like, What in the world is this or something? I forget what it is, what line it is, but it was pretty funny.
Bob Hoskins was a great
Yes.
Mario.
Nostalgia.
John Leguizamo.
Yes,
is,
Luigi.
Listen, it's like
Went straight from that to do Tu Wong Fu.
Yeah.
God,
it is one of the worst movies ever made, but that's
Yes.
why I love it. Like
Yeah.
it is just, it
All
is
right.
amazingly bad.
Let's move on to our relationship segment.
Let me tell you about the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the moon up above
Sing it.
and a thing called love.
Belt it out. Oh. Beautiful. Let's talk about it,
Yeah,
guys.
let's do it
When should you argue?
every day, all day. Just argue.
Just be that bastard.
Sometimes I enjoy being a contrarian. Like play devil's advocate.
I
with
know
people.
you do.
Contrarian.
Yeah. I like to play devil's advocate with people. They get pissed, but it's fun.
Keep him down. Yeah, he plays it well. Sometimes too well.
I don't
He's joking and you're mad. It's like that's what he plays it too well because
It's
he's
like I don't
being
even
funny.
believe a single thing I'm saying, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep saying it.
You
Yeah,
almost have to just ignore him at some point because it's like when he senses you're mad,
yeah. He just digs
he
deeper.
just digs deeper,
Yeah.
and then you're like, "Damn it, he's got me.
Yep.
He's got me more pissed."
Yep.
And then he just keeps going, and you're finally like, "I'm not talking to you
don't
anymore."
feed, don't feed the beast. Don't do it. Don't feed it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, and it could be any relationship. When
I
should
mean,
you
I do.
argue?
No, but it's funny though because I do think there are times that it's better to bite your tongue. It's not worth it. But there are, I think, certain things you should stand your ground
It
on.
just sounded like Christopher Walken. Certain things.
There's certain things
Certain
that
things.
you gotta stand your ground on.
Yeah. We all just butchered Christopher
Yeah,
Walken.
we did.
That was terrible. That was
All of
pretty
us.
terrible.
Yeah.
He's unique.
It's walking here.
But anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
No, I was just like I think when it comes to like certain moral things or making sure you're not getting like walked over, like I'm not saying go in and like argue with your boss on a regular basis, but if like your boss is asking you to do something that is not right, like then yeah, you have a right to stand up and say no, I'm not going to do this. Or if there's a certain like moral aspect that I think like if someone's asking you to do something, whether you go to the movies, I know Brandon had his run in with the guy asking him to put the mask on, and Brandon made a statement, but he didn't stand there and argue the whole time because he knew like that's a futile argument. But at the same time, he's not going to just let his morals just be trounced over. So
No,
yeah.
I specifically made especially during the COVID debacle.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are eating their own words now because so much of it's becoming what we
some of it's
all
coming
knew
out,
was
and
bullshit.
you're seeing the fact that
But I think especially when it came to that, no, I debated and I told you all that it was going to be a hard issue to come to terms on because I said if they ask, I'll put it on. If they don't, I'm not going to show up wearing it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to intentionally make them ask me, and it only happened on one occasion because literally within the very next week they got rid of it or they made it optional. But and also even when I did wear it the one time, I wore it through the lobby, and I got into the theater and I took it off.
Yeah.
because of course I knew they weren't going to police it. And the guy who was demanding it was the manager, and ultimately I felt like he was only doing it because he thought he had to, but he was being kind of a prick about it.
Everything he does is he's always a prick.
Yeah, well, AMC's just in shambles because of him.
I don't know which one's the manager.
I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while.
I haven't.
It may be a new
maybe
one. I don't know.
they gave him the boot because I haven't seen him in a long
all
time
of Keith's
either.
bad reviews. I mean, we literally had flies flying around the urinal this week.
Yeah.
We've not had that yet. There
That
were
reminds
gnats.
me, I do have
there
another
were
one.
pecker
I
gnats
do have
flying
another
around.
review thing. I need to do that one.
Get that free popcorn.
Man, I wish I'd
For
got
telling the
some pictures
truth.
of those flies.
Tell the truth.
But I mean, I do have another one as far as like when you should argue. But I mean, I do remember like, okay, doing things at my house and having like family help, and then them wanting to be like, well, we should do this or this, and I'm like, no, it's my house.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to do it this way.
Yeah.
And whether you don't like that idea or not, like that's how I want the room to look because it's my home.
Yep.
And it's not to be rude or inconsiderate.
You
of their
don't have to
help.
live with it.
Well, it's not to be rude or inconsiderate of their help or to argue for arguing's sake. But at that point, it's like, do I just go along with it because I don't want to argue with my family? No, it's my home. I want to make sure like it's the way I want it every day. I have to be there.
Yeah.
So that's an example I just remembered. But I mean, yeah, I think there are times definitely it's okay to argue. I don't think you should do it every chance you get.
Yeah. I think there's a difference, too, between argue and debate.
Yeah.
And that's like debate can be healthy.
Yeah.
Being argumentative is usually arguing is usually used in a negative connotation. It's kind of like a negative thing. But debating someone because of something you're passionate about or something you believe in, and you're not willing to budge, and you're going to state the reason and support, why you believe that, then I think it's okay. I try my best not to be argumentative. I like a healthy debate, and I'm perfectly within the realm of being schooled in a debate, and walking away and saying, okay, yeah. I mean, we're gonna agree to disagree, but I don't. To me, argumentative is more negative, like fighting, and that's something that like there's not a. I argue with my kids because I know I'm right and they're wrong.
Well, you're the father. I mean,
right.
You are the
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
figurehead.
It's like, but like arguing with my wife, 9 times out of 10, it may start that way, but it ends up becoming more of a debate. It's like, well, we'll give your reasons for why you feel that way, and I'll give my reasons.
But who
and we'll
wins the
see.
debate?
And that I don't know. And I think that's one of the things about like a debate is like, yeah, when you argue, there almost is a definitive person who wins. When you debate, it's not so much. I don't really know how you can even judge who wins a debate because most of the time you debate, people walk away with the same beliefs they came in with. But
in official debates, they do have a winner. Like
I know, but I'm just like, unless you have people that change their minds because of what you said, then you didn't really win. You stated your obvious opinions, and they stated their obvious opinions.
That's why I've always loved Dennis Prager's saying, prefer clarity to agreement.
Yeah.
And it's like, at least in that case, especially, I think that's another thing too, is like you said, arguing typically does come from a standpoint of being,
standoffish
causing
or
friction and
something.
specifically being, demeaning and to a degree. But I also think you have to have that groundwork laid out ahead of you before you enter into a discussion, because it's like, okay, are we coming to this where we're going to voice our opinions differently?
Yeah.
Because I think, and I'll be honest with you, I think especially in today's world, this is becoming a huge issue. Culturally, politically, it's driven by politics, but people just state overwhelmingly how they feel about something by telling you as if you agree with them. And I can't stand it. And it's
assuming that you agree with it.
Assuming that I agree with them.
They assume that they're so right that you can't
like
do anything but agree with them. Yeah.
If you're a sane person, you wouldn't dare disagree with this.
Yeah.
There was a guy at work the other day, and he was just like, well, I don't know how you plan on spending, well, I guess if you celebrate the racist holiday, I don't know if we still get that off. And I'm
Columbus
just sitting,
Day?
Columbus Day. And I just wanted to be like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't give a damn what you think about this
It's
day.
so funny about
And-
that too, because
they-
people are so worried about offending others, but you should have been
Oh.
offended by that.
Well, that's the thing. I don't care because
I know that, but it's
but
like-
my point is most people
Yeah.
who do wear their feelings on their sleeves, like him saying that to
Yeah.
be argumentative,
That's
is
offensive.
simply just to put in a dig, hoping that I won't comment. And yeah, I mostly. It's not about being Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot of times. He talks about being aggressive versus being agreeable, and he says often men are more aggressive, which is why they'll work longer hours to get that better salary, to climb the corporate ladder, to than they will be agreeable, because agreeableness tends to just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
I happen to be in a much more agreeable fashion because typically I'm not going to cause friction unless I feel like I'm backed into a corner where it is me having to defend my
Then it's
morals or my
defensive.
values.
Yeah, it's defensive, though.
Right. And agree. And then it becomes defensive, and it's how well, because trust me, there were a couple times where with the same person I've sparred and I've very plainly stated that I'm not budging on this issue. I have this stance, and I'm letting you know where I stand, and you can't convince me otherwise. And he had simply was like, okay, agree to disagree. And it's like, for the most part, that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
fact that you even have to arrive in a tumultuous way to that conclusion proves that so many people are walking around, I think, with this false validity of not only do they live in their own bubble and believe what they believe, but they truly are so insecure with what they believe that they have to feel that when they expend that information or their view, that it is then compounded, oh, well, because you didn't argue with me or disagree, then that means I'm right.
Yeah.
So now I can feel
automatically
validated
come out
in my
defensive,
reasoning.
Like, well, if you don't believe this, then they throw out the whole
Yeah.
bigot, the racist, and then when you don't argue, you're like, okay, yeah, I am right.
Right.
And it's like, no,
And it's like, no,
we're not worth the energy. Yeah.
Right. And that's more or less where I come down. I eventually get to the point where I'm like, I'm not making a mountain out of a molehill. Because I don't care how you and I are not in a position where we're creating policy for laws right now. So it's not worth me going to this, because at the end of the day, I get paid by being here and doing my job.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to talk about political policy and whether
Yeah.
or not this is good or bad.
I think for me,
if I'm shooting the crap with somebody that I do agree with, then that's cool. And if there's
Yeah.
things that come up in conversation, that's great. And hopefully you meet people who are a little bit more willing to converse. But it's absolutely incinerating.
No,
I was just gonna say, I think another.
I'm not going to argue
aspect-
with you. You go ahead.
I was just saying, I think for me, another aspect that I find funny that another reason I don't argue is that like that person, when they can't convince you that they're right or they can't sway you to their side, and you give a rebuttal that they disagree with, their feelings get hurt. My feelings don't get hurt. You can say what you want to me all day long. I don't care. I disagree with
Right.
you, and it's not going to hurt
Right.
my feelings. But the minute that I refuse to agree with you, you get butthurt. So it's like, I'm not going to go into the argument, because why are your feelings going to get hurt
Right.
over the fact that I won't budge on my beliefs?
Right.
No, yeah. I mean, we've all. I mean, even
in this room?
yeah, we've all had text messages and conversations and arguments and it's
Weekly,
it is
daily.
it is it's kind of like, but I mean, but like we had one about a year ago or almost a year ago, and it's just like, I understand, like the way, the tone.
Yes.
That maybe that I texted that, or the tone that you took away from a text message, it makes it,
That
it
happens
turns
too,
it turns it into an argument.
Oh,
but
yeah.
at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, like, I get it. I stated what I believe, and you don't. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to say you have to believe that.
Right.
And I'm not offended or feelings hurt.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about if I hurt your feelings or offended you. Shit, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. That wasn't my intent, and that's often the case with me, because I just spat stuff out sometimes, and it isn't my intent to hurt anybody. It's just I'm opinionated, and that's just one of the things. I feel like today you almost have to be, but at the same time, with people well, I don't feel like I necessarily have to be that opinionated, because you already know kind of where I am, and sometimes when I have that if I'm over opinionated, then I feel like some people might take it the wrong way, but it's not intentional. But at the same time, it's like we can sit there and have this back and forth or this debate, and eventually we're just gonna be like, agree to disagree.
Exactly.
And it's not. I don't feel any different about you, and I hope you don't feel that way about me. And it's the same thing. I think a healthy argument or a healthy debate back and forth is one where you finally reach the point where it's like that. It's like, that's fine. You can believe what you want to believe. Here's why I believe this.
Right.
Here's why I believe this. We're still friends. It doesn't change anything.
Well, and I was going to bring up, though, I think that matters, too, and we've talked about this on the show before, probably on the relationship segment, but it also matters with regards to where you're at in the circle of your friendship and the level of your friendship.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm going to care more about what I may say to you all and how it affects you all because I do care about your feelings and your emotions more so than I do at work. But then there's also that feeling of, oh, if I'm working alongside this person and I see them day in and day out, you want a cordial, functioning friendship or relationship with that person so that you don't have this animosity, because it can very well become an issue. If I remember very easily back in college when I was a little bit younger, a little bit more immature, and I was working in a machine shop, and there was this spat I had with another machinist, and it went on for a good week where I did not speak to this guy. And I was very pissed. He knew I was pissed. And eventually it got to the point where I needed his help on something. I was being stubborn, trying not to ask him. And he eventually just came over. He was older, of course. And he was just like, you need some help with that? And like he broke the silence. And I was like, yeah, I'd appreciate it. Like, I was trying to be stubborn still. But it's funny because it's like you do have to have this cordial, it goes along with just good communication in being able to communicate well with somebody else to do what you need to get done. But I'm not going to sit there and be sleepless at night because, I pissed this guy off at work. No, I know it's going to be weird if I got to go in there the next day.
Yeah.
And there's this odd tension. So more than likely, most of the time, I'm just like, I don't really care what your opinion is. You probably don't care what mine is. So instead, I just kind of make the assumption from the outset, if you are boneheaded enough to just assert your opinion on me as if I agree with it, I'm going to simply find a way to peaceably say, no, I don't. But then also, that's as far as I'll go. We don't have to go any further.
Yeah.
We all have to live alongside each other. We all have to work alongside each other. It's like there has to be some type of civility, and clarity over agreement would go a long way towards people being able to just get along and live life. Because right now, everybody wants to be at each other's throats because it's like, oh, you don't believe exactly what I believe? Well, now
but
you're
you
an
know
evil
what
person.
really started that? Your truth versus my truth.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
When we lost the truth,
Yes.
and traded that for a lie of your own truth,
Yep.
and multiple truths, that's where your opinion no longer is right. I am right because it's my truth.
Well, and that's the other thing, to misconstrued a idea of perception of life, because we've all had different life experiences. Nobody's denying that. But to then distort that and pervert it in such a way of calling it your truth, as if nothing is tantamount or paramount to it.
Yeah.
That's a problem, because now you are coming from this
truth
moral
is,
mountain
truth
of
is
authority.
Absolute.
Exactly.
And
when you're not objective
made it to
about
where there's
it,
no more absolutes.
And
our
when-
own damn
yes.
president says
But I also
stuff
think
isn't
too
absolute.
that so much of that still comes from the perspective also of how important every issue is. And it's like, no, not everything is a life or death issue.
No,
and if
they
I
all are.
disagree with you on something that is a macro level issue, we may have a vigorous, passionate debate about how what you think is wrong and what I think is wrong. But at the end of the day, you should still be able to go and break bread with that person, because guess what? You're two people sitting in a room debating and discussing this. You're not two people who are going to solve the world's issues and be the dictator tomorrow to make a decision.
We're all getting screwed over by the government. We might as well get along about it.
We can all agree on that. I mean, now even the left side is starting to agree.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, it's like
we're in a bad way.
We're all getting
Yeah.
screwed. We might as well get along while we do it.
But I mean, a perfect example of what you just said, though, is like some of the things that we debate about when it comes to religion. And it's like you have salvation issues, and you have secondary and third tier level issues, and those aren't the ones that
Those aren't
people
the ones that get hung
That's
up
not
on.
the one you get knocked down, drag out arguments over.
Right.
That's when it comes to salvation. Like if you don't believe this, you're not saved.
Right.
But if you don't believe in when the rapture is going to happen, or whether the Earth is 6,000 or 60 billion years old,
Exactly.
that's not an issue that you're ready to go to arms over.
It shouldn't be.
And I think, like, again, like when you talk about this person at work, yeah, you don't lose sleep overnight over what a person at work
Hell
cares
no.
about. But
Love
I mean,
you guys.
but
Hell
yeah,
no.
but I lose sleep at night over what my closest friends feel.
Yep.
I don't want to go to bed at night knowing that I hurt my wife's
Or
feelings
Amelia.
or that I hurt my friend's feelings. Exactly. And I am that person that I will not let it die until we've figured
It's
this
figured
out.
it out.
Exactly. Like I'm I'm the male that has to fix everything.
Well, I just want you
have
to
to
know
see everything
right now
fixed.
you've hurt my feelings.
Well, suck it up. We'll talk about it later. I'll text you later.
I just don't want you. I just don't want you to have a peaceful night's sleep. That's all.
I'll say, don't text me later.
I'll
I'm
text
gonna
you
be. I'm
3
gonna
in
try
the
to get
morning. I'll be
3
like,
hours
Keith,
of sleep.
What is it, man? What happened?
Brandon will
What
get
did I
into
say?
He'll get into an argument over the fact
What did
that
I
you're not
say,
letting
or how did I
sleep.
say it? Or
Just shut up! I'm trying
Yeah.
to sleep.
yeah.
Oh, I'll freaking. And I know y'all probably do it to me, and that's fine. But it's like if I'm texting too much, it's like, do not disturb. Like I need it on right
Yeah.
now. It's like I'm busy.
Sometimes I
want
want to say it. Sometimes I want to just say "do not disturb." I want to type
Well,
it.
it's funny because I've noticed in
why you just
group
put that
chats,
on there, yeah.
you don't see it. It's only an individual.
Oh,
like,
okay.
like in the Red Moon text
Yeah.
between us,
It doesn't show when
it
he's in-
won't
yeah.
show it.
Yeah.
But if you go to my actual just individual text thread, it'll show he's in
Oh,
do not
okay.
disturb.
Well, that's
I
why
gotcha.
I've honestly tried to start going to texting people. Like there's times when I've texted Sean individually because it's like Brandon's either busy right now
Or at work.
or it's
Yeah.
it's a conversation that like I know like if it's something you haven't seen yet, like certain shows that me and
Yeah,
you haven't
we've
seen.
done that, yeah.
It's
Well,
like
today
why
you
text
sent
in
me
the group
something
when I
about
know you're
the
not gonna see it?
NFL.
Oh yeah,
and I was like,
He knows I don't
thinking-
like football.
Yeah,
so
like
yeah,
Sean
I
doesn't,
don't
I was like, Sean
care.
doesn't follow the NFL, so I sent it
Yeah.
to Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just like things like that where it's like, yeah, that makes complete sense. Yeah. But I ultimately, yeah, it's like, okay, yes, it's good to argue to work things out. But again, remember who you're arguing with.
Yeah.
A clarity to agreement is the best kind of medicine you can take. But also just know that you're not there to have vitriol and
Yeah.
hatred in your heart. You love the people that you're with. At least kind of have some Christ-like behavior
Yeah.
towards the when you get overcome with all the hatred.
Yeah.
Just what would Jesus do?
I'm as
Right.
bad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
That's in Matthew 24.
Yeah.
That Jesus says that. It's in red letters.
I'm as mad as hell.
That's exactly what he
I'm not
said.
gonna-
Yeah, it's
That's
like
when
one
he
of
was
the one
overturning
of the many times he talks about hell.
When he was overturning
He
the
flipped the
tables,
table.
and says,
and
I'm mad as hell.
and I'm not going to take this anymore in the temple.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have your own thoughts on what we should agree or not agree, argue, agree to disagree,
Clarity.
we should have in terms of arguing or not arguing or discussing or debating, why don't you let us know?
Yeah.
By easily emailing us
Where?
RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com.
I don't know.
Well,
That's not
before
it.
we get to you
That's
saying
not
it,
Yeah.
that's the old-fashioned way. You can also like, share, subscribe on all of our social platforms: Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics, and search for Red Moon Productions on
When-
YouTube and on Rumble.
When are
Search
we
for
going
us
to
on
do
that.
TikTok or OnlyFans? We need to get on one of those.
I think we should do an OnlyFans.
Y'all didn't get the OnlyFans?
We should have a
login?
Red Moon OnlyFans.
Yeah, I sent that out about a
Yeah,
month ago.
we talked about this
We
tonight.
need to make that up.
I seriously, I sent out that login.
If you want us to make a Red Moon's OnlyFans, please email us at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
Can you do your Mario voice?
Beautiful.
My Mario?
Does he
voice?
have
Do a Mario
I don't
voice.
know if I have one.
I want to hear
I've
you
not
do the
practiced this. Oh, gosh.
email as Mario.
I don't. It's the me. I can't do it. Yeah. I can't.
I don't think he's
I
ever
can't,
done it.
I can't go high pitched.
What can you do, Chewbacca?
I can.
Oh, here comes the dog.
Oh, she knows.
She
She knows when it's the end of the show.
I can do that
Show's
one.
over.
I
That
might
was it.
practice Mario. I've never tried really going high pitched because I have a lower, but I can try.
Yeah.
I'll have to practice that.
Alrighty, guys. Tune in next week.
RMPodcast@theredmoon.com.
Better than Chris Pratt. I'm telling you. Next week we're reviewing Halloween Ends. Tune in then. It'll
Sounded
be
like
our
Borat.
only review.
Yeah, it did more sound like Borat. Very nice.
Very nice.
Until next time,
Podcast.
I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new
Sean
host,
Sebastian.
and
Keep the cheats.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.